What's good, everybody? Happy Sunday morning. You have tapped into the Cops and Convicts podcast with Sean Shepard. I am yours truly, Sean Shepard. We are streaming live on the Cops and Convicts YouTube channel, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, hit that notification bell. Welcome. I just want to tap in and get a general overall feel for what your thoughts are about living in America post the 2024 election. I know people are concerned about the economy. When aren't people concerned about the economy? I mean, I get it. Gas prices, food prices, price of eggs. That seems to be the big topic of conversation. Like the price of eggs are high. Like when did people care so much about eggs? Look, I'm with you. I don't want anything to be expensive. I just think that the reality is post COVID, business owners have made sure that they keep prices high. I don't think that prices have to be as high as they are. I do believe in price gouging because I believe in corporate greed. I believe in human greed. I believe it because I see it. There is no out of the kindness of my heart, except for like the Costco hot dog, which is $1.50 and has been $1.50 for I think decades. But think about it. If you can make $5 per item when you know it only costs you 50 cents to make the item, and you've been selling it for $1, but you know that people will pay $5 for it, what business owner isn't going to charge $5? A long time ago, when I was living in San Diego, I would frequent this Ethiopian restaurant in City Heights called Red Sea. I really liked the food. And they had these appetizers called sambusa. They're pastry puffs filled with either lentils or chicken or goat or beef, whatever. And people loved them. I don't know if they're still in City Heights, but when I would go to the restaurant and I saw that the price for sambusa was like $2. $2 is a really cheap price to pay. And I said to them, I'm like, look, you could charge more for these items. People will pay it. You're charging $2. If you wanted to charge $4, that's still a really good price for an appetizer that's so hearty and filling and tasty. And they refused to do it. They're from Ethiopia, and they were like, no, that wouldn't be right. and I said, I admire you and your moral stance on what's right and what's wrong from a price standpoint, but you're now in the United States of America, and $4 for this particular appetizer is still a very, very reasonable price. $2 is almost free. I'm not mad at you. I'd rather pay the $2, but at the same time, paying $4 is not going to break me. They wouldn't change the price. Good for them. But that's not the capitalist spirit. And I don't know if they're still in business. And here's another thing about that restaurant. And this is really reflective of their culture, not American culture. They didn't believe in excess. I remember calling this particular restaurant and saying, I want to order 10 sambusa. I want to order 10 of them, because what I wanted to do was eat 2, freeze the other 8, and eat them as I go along. They refused to sell me 10. Think about that. They were like, what do you need 10 for? I said, I'm like, what do you care what I need 10 for? You're selling these items. Shouldn't you be happy that I want to buy 10? And their mindset was, if we sell you 10, that'd be less that we have to offer to somebody else. I guess that was their thought process. Any business owner that I know, if you want to come in and clean them out of their chicken tacos, I want to buy every single chicken taco that you have to sell today. What's your price? They're going to sell them. And then for the future customers that come in, it's like, we're out. We're out today. We don't have any more to sell. You know? And how many times have you gone to a restaurant and wanted to order your favorite item and they've sold out? It happens. Well, these people from Ethiopia were trying to prevent that from happening. They wanted to help and serve and sell to people other than myself. They thought that what I was doing was being greedy. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but I wanted to ask you how you're feeling about the economy, how you're feeling about purchasing things, no matter what those things are, and the price of those things. And if you think that it's a matter of this administration, the current administration, if you think the incoming administration is going to make a difference when it comes to prices on regular food items, or is this a corporate America problem that they are capitalizing on the price hikes that they had to do during COVID, and they just haven't brought them down? You go to any restaurant, buy food from a food truck, I'm not paying $30 for your chicken and rice and vegetable plate from a food truck just because you're selling it on a food truck. $30, if it's $30 worth of food, I have no problem paying $30 for a dish at a restaurant or at a food truck. But I think the prices have gotten out of control, and I don't think it has anything to do with politics. I think it has everything to do with American capitalism. And the market will dictate what we can get away paying. I'm sorry, what we can get away charging. The oil companies, the gas companies really have us by the short hairs because we need gas. We can't boycott purchasing gas. You need gas for your car. So if the gas prices are $12 a gallon or $2 a gallon, Americans are going to have to pay whatever they're charging. And that doesn't have anything to do, in my opinion, with who the president is and whether Republicans or Democrats or independents control Congress. Because if you Google gas prices around the world, do it. Go on Google and Google which countries charge the most for gas prices. And you'll see, in Saudi Arabia, their citizens are paying like 20 cents a gallon. Well, how's that happening? Why are they paying 20 cents a gallon? 25 cents a gallon? Hell, I'm going to do it. Let me check it out. Let me do this just for the sake of doing it. Bear with me. Cheapest gas prices around the world. Okay. Let's look at gas prices around the world. I'm looking at US News Money. Okay, I was wrong. I overpriced. They're paying 11 cents a gallon in Iran, 12 cents a gallon in Libya, 13 cents a gallon in Venezuela, Angola, $1.29 a gallon, Egypt, $1.06 a gallon, Iraq, $2.40 a gallon, Russia, $2.44 a gallon. How are they doing that? So countries with the most expensive gas, Uruguay is paying $7.32 a gallon. Wallace and Futuna, $7.40 a gallon. So Finland, $7.44 a gallon. Let's go all the way down. Hong Kong, $12.36 a gallon. And here's the footnote. There are many reasons gas is significantly more expensive in these countries. Some of these countries are tiny nations that can't dig it up out of the ground, Ernest says. Instead, they have to pay billions of gallons shipped to them and then figure out how to get it refined. That's expensive. Iceland, $8.69 a gallon. So Hong Kong, high end, $12.36 a gallon. Low end, Iran, 11 cents a gallon. Okay, there's gas there. Chris Rock had a joke a long time ago. He said he didn't understand why gas was so expensive in this country. We have our own oil. And his joke was, call me crazy, but if I owned a chicken wing place, wings is going to be pretty cheap in my household. The oil companies in the United States, where we produce our own oil, why they charge us so much is because they can. And we're complaining about $4 a gallon. The good old days was $4 a gallon. I think, here in Los Angeles, the gas is high. There's $3.99 places and cheaper, but, gas got up to $5 a gallon, maybe $6 a gallon in some places. Doesn't bother me. I have an electric car. I'm just over it. But I'm telling you what the highest gas around the world, the United States isn't even on the list. We're complaining about gas prices, and we should, based on what gas prices we're used to paying, but we're not even on the list of highest countries when it comes to gas prices. And we're certainly not on the least expensive gas prices. We're in the middle. So who do we hold accountable for that? Who lets these companies get away with it? Our politicians. I think that Citizens United was the worst Supreme Court decision, one of the worst in the last century. When they decided that corporations are people, that allowed corporations to move like people as it relates to who they contribute campaign funds to. And when you contribute millions of dollars to someone's campaign, you're assuring yourself that that politician is going to move in a way that's going to be beneficial to your company. When I look at oil companies, when I look at insurance companies, a lot of people complain about insurance. When the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, for those people who are just now finding out that those two things are the same thing, they complained that the government was making me do something, making us have health care. Well, you don't have to have health care. If you don't choose to, you just have to pay a tax. And it kind of makes sense, because if you don't have healthcare insurance and you go into an emergency room and you receive care, somebody's paying for it. If you can't afford, if you are dying from, if you're in the process of dying from a heart attack and an emergency room can save you, they're going to save you, but somebody has to pay for that. Somebody's paying for it. So we complained about Obamacare, and now people got used to Obamacare. And even though those prices have gone up since Obamacare's inception, people don't want to give up their healthcare insurance. But insurance in general is a scam. I think it is, especially if you're a responsible person. When I say maybe responsible is not the right word. If you don't go to the doctor, let's just say you have insurance and you pay your premium every single month, and you don't even take the responsibility to go and have an annual physical examination. You pay your premium and you never go to the doctor and you don't need any medication. You're just giving money away. Now, I know people will say, well, your premiums are paying for somebody else when they file a claim. Well, I thought we don't like socialism in this country, even though socialism is everywhere in this country. It's everywhere. Our tax dollars are used for so many things that we don't even pay attention to what it's being used for. People don't like that term, spread the wealth. That's exactly what our tax dollars do. I make money, I pay taxes, and my taxes go to support X, Y, and Z. I didn't even vote for what my taxes go toward. Not everything. So I'm paying insurance, you're paying insurance, car insurance. I pay car insurance every single month, and so do you if you're following the law. And yet I never get into an accident. So what am I paying this money for? Somebody else's claim? Somebody else's claim. And then when I file a claim, the insurance company fights me tooth and nail. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to honor my claim. So how do you feel about that? We have spent so much time complaining about other, what politician has voted for this particular policy. We don't like Trump. We love Trump. We don't like Biden. We love Biden. We don't like Obama. We do like Obama. Let's get past the president. Let's get past the political party and ask the question: why are the corporations in this country taking advantage of us so much and so often when it comes to what they're charging us? Already know why the politicians allow it, because those corporations make campaign contributions. So they're paying for policy to be in their favor. I already understand why the corporations, why the politicians allow it. Even though they're paying the same prices for the same things that we're paying, except for healthcare, they get the best healthcare. The best. But if we're all supposed to be Americans, and American citizens, generally speaking, are so gung-ho about buying American, supporting American companies, are those American companies supporting you? I don't think they're supporting me by overcharging us. They're already making profits. They're making record profits. You mean to tell me if they drop the price of toilet paper by $1, that they're still not going to be making profits? Yeah, but not as much. They want to make as big of a profit as humanly possible. That's capitalism. Okay, I get it, but it hurts you and I. And then those same corporations don't want to pay you a livable wage. I need you to ask yourself this question. How do you square support for politicians who are in support of not raising the minimum wage? How do you square that away? I understand how business owners don't want to raise the minimum wage. They don't want to pay you anything. Think about the history of this country. If they could get away with it, they would have you work for free. That's what the business model in this country was. The main business model in this country that brought so much wealth to this country when, quote, cotton was king, unquote, was free labor, slave labor. That's what this country was built on. It was built on free labor. And since free labor is no longer legal in this country, I didn't say slavery wasn't legal in this country because it still is. All you have to do is look at the wording of the 13th Amendment and you will see that slavery was never fully abolished. Free labor is not legal. Slavery is still legal in this country, and it exists every day in the prison system. Just look at the wording of the 13th Amendment. So the most successful business model in this country was free labor. And corporations and owners are doing everything that they can to come as close to that business model as humanly possible. I want to pay my employees as little as I legally can so that my profits are even greater. It's that simple. So when you look at it that way, of course they don't want to raise the minimum wage. Why would they want to raise the minimum wage? Costs in this country have gone up, and wages for normal people like you and I have remained the same for decades. But yet, bonuses and salaries for the CEOs of the largest companies have gone up and up and up. They're making more money by charging more money, and we're making the same amount of money while they charge more for their product. And what are we doing about it? We're fighting amongst each other about who we want elected president. And yet, it seems to me, no matter who the president is, the richest people in this country keep making more money and paying less taxes, and we pay more for those products and make the same amount of money, if not less. So what do we do about that? I'll tell you what I think we need to do about that. I think we need to stop for one moment and actually take a look. What is your monthly budget? Look at your monthly budget now compared to, if you're old enough, compared to 20 years ago. How much more money are you making now based on the money that you're making? How much money are you how much money are you spending right now compared to how much money you're making now? And then look at what you were doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Prices were cheaper. How much money were you making? Is the ratio the same? I am guessing that it's not. So you're tapped into the Cops and Convicts podcast with Sean Shepard. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that share button. I'm talking about how folks are feeling now living in the United States post-election. How are you feeling about it? And we're talking about the price of things. and whether the price of things truly has to do with who the president is. I think the price of what we're paying has to do with what our elected officials allow corporations to do legally. They can charge us as much money as they want. They pay us as little as they can get away with. And in order for them to pay truly as little as they can, they're going to farm out jobs overseas. That's what they do. You know, those sweatshops that we hear about primarily in Asian countries, they exist where people are making pennies each day on the dollar. I just got done telling you, this country, meaning the United States, most successful business model was free labor. Free labor. What's up, Americano? So free labor has been the most successful business model in this country. So why wouldn't corporations pay for people in far distant lands who are going to make your sneakers for 15 cents? They'll manufacture those sneakers for 15 cents, and then a company like Nike will charge $120 for a pair of sneakers. Well, why aren't those sneakers made in the United States? I just told you, they're not going to be able to make those sneakers for 15 cents per. I'm just using the number 15 cents. Here in the United States, there's a minimum wage, and that minimum wage is like 5,000 times more than some person in some far distant land in Asia working for next to nothing. So when you talk about what's to come with this new administration that's going to come in, and if Trump keeps to his word that he's going to put tariffs on things, I think I'm hoping by now that people understand what a tariff is. And so things that are already expensive, unnecessarily expensive, products are expensive now because of greed, not because corporations need to charge as much as they're charging us for items. They're charging us that much because they want to, they can, will pay for it. If we stop buying products that we don't necessarily need, the price will come down. That's the way supply and demand works. We have to buy gas. We have to buy gas for our cars for those people who still drive combustible engines, which is a majority of Americans. So we have to buy gas. We are at their mercy on how much they charge us. If you're old enough, in the 70s, I remember there was a gas shortage. There was a gas crisis in this country. And you could only go and buy gas based on sometimes it was the day of the week, based on the last couple of digits in your license plate number. And I remember the sign, I remember the flags. A gas station that had a red flag up meant that they were out of gas. A gas station that had a yellow flag up means that you could only buy a certain number, a certain level, a certain amount of gas. And then the gas stations that had green flags meant you can come in, we got gas. Well, I thought that there was an oil shortage around the world. What a scam. That was in the 70s. I thought we were running out of gas. We weren't running out of gas. We weren't running out of oil. It's amazing. So my suggestion to combat all of this is we need to come together as Americans and demand that things change. And unfortunately, we're too caught up in, I want this guy to be president, or I want this person to be president. And once your candidate wins, you feel a sense of victory and you exhale. And then when things don't go the way your guy promised they would go, you make excuses for that guy. When it was never really about the guy. It was never about the guy. It's about the guy and our government and their relationship with the corporations and billionaire owners. That's what it's always been about. Campaign financing, tax breaks, not for us. You live in California, you live in Massachusetts, you pay a lot of taxes. And most of the southern states, they don't have state tax. And that's great. If you live in a state that has no state tax, that's great for you. But you have to understand, if you don't have that revenue coming in, money has to be coming in from somewhere to pay for your roads to be fixed. And so when a company, a state that doesn't have state tax, and there's a hurricane that hits, or a tornado that hits, or there's a national emergency, and the federal government steps in and finances the rebuilding of your city or state, where do you think that money comes from? Where do you think that money comes from? Where do you think federal money comes from? To help your state that's dealing with X, Y, and Z and doesn't charge state tax. Where do you think the money comes from? It comes from me, all the way out here in California. It comes from a lot of the other states that do pay state tax and the federal taxes that we all pay. That's socialism, bro. For people, I don't want to live in a socialist country. You live in a socialist country right now. When my tax dollars go to pay for your hurricane rebuild clear across the country from here, that's socialism. When my taxes pay for my trash to get picked up, that's socialism. My taxes pay for law enforcement, that's socialism. Pays for the fire department, that's socialism. It pays for the roads to get fixed, it's socialism. Oh, the socialists, the whole country is built on socialism. If you're not going to pay tax, how do you think that things are going to get fixed in your state? And we all seem to be too blind or ignorant to realize that that's happening. And it has to happen. I'm not saying that it's 100% wrong. I'm saying that for the people who think that it doesn't exist, what world are you living in? Like, you're living under a rock. And so I have a question for you. Your tax dollars. We don't have much of a say as to how our tax dollars are going to get utilized. So I'll ask you this question, Americano, if you're still here, and forever else who's tapped in. When someone loses their life at the hands of law enforcement and a lawsuit is filed, and it's a civil lawsuit, and most of the people whose loved ones lose their lives at the hands of police file a civil lawsuit and they win. If the lawsuit, if it even goes to trial, most of the time they settle out of court for some undisclosed number, and law enforcement will tend to include language that said, we're not admitting to any wrongdoing, but here's your settlement. Do you want your tax dollars going toward that settlement? Because they are. When a member of law enforcement sues his or her own department for whatever reason they're suing them, sexism, racism, discrimination, whatever. I was passed over for. I was passed over for a promotion, and I believe it's because of my race or my gender. And they sue the department, and they win, and they get a payout. Most of these things never go to trial. You have to understand that. Most of these lawsuits end up in a settlement agreement. The aggrieved person gets their money. And a lot of times the aggrieved person will get their money and get their job back if they're a member of law enforcement. Do you want your tax dollars going toward that? So I ask again, do you want your tax dollars going toward the person who lost their lives at the hands of law enforcement and they get a settlement? Do you want your tax dollars going toward a member of law enforcement who's suing his or her own department and they get a settlement? Do you want your tax dollars going toward either one of those things? You don't. I don't care if you back the blue or you can't stand law enforcement. Those two different groups of people, I guarantee you they agree on that point. They don't want their tax dollars going toward those settlements. The insurance that law enforcement agencies have do not cover all of the costs associated with lawsuits being filed against the department. So when the insurance doesn't cover it, your tax dollars cover it. Let me see what Americano has to say. I'm going to read your comment. We live in a guilt-based society and we try to pretend that justice will prevail, but only dirty pool beats a cheat. Only dirty pool beats a cheat. We pretend that justice will prevail. We live in a guilt-based society and we try to pretend that justice will prevail, but only dirty pool beats a cheat. I don't know exactly what that means. If you think that everybody is guilty until proven innocent instead of everybody is innocent until proven guilty, I don't know if that's what you mean by that. But I just bring it up because we are so divided on so many things where if we just sat down and had a conversation with one another, whether you like Trump or you can't stand Trump, whether you like Biden or you can't stand Biden. If you take Trump, Biden, and all these other politicians out of the mix, and we just have a conversation about what life is like for you and what life is like for me, I guarantee you, we will discover that we can't stand the same things that are happening to both of us. And we'll come to the conclusion as to why those things continue to happen. And then we'll say, we can work on this together and stop this from happening. And the reason why it doesn't happen is because corporations, politicians have skillfully and masterfully kept us divided enough from having those conversations where you and I can look at each other and say, I think that car insurance is a scam. And I think that you should only have to pay X, Y, and Z in the event that I get into an accident. Or if I'm paying premiums, if I haven't filed a claim at the end of the year, I get X amount of dollars back. I get a percentage back. Something. Instead of us blindly going along with paying premiums, never filing a claim, and it's free money for those companies. Yes, I understand that they use all premiums to settle claims for somebody else. More socialism. Okay, Americano, let's see what you have to say again. I want the law to apply equally to all, which is not something I've ever witnessed in my life. I agree. And many people are fine with what it takes to win mostly, which is lying and cheating to win at all costs. Yeah. Yeah. But Americano, to your point, the law has never been applied equally to all, ever. The 14th Amendment exists specifically because the rights and protections under the Constitution were not extended to all people. That's why the 14th Amendment exists. Look up what the 14th Amendment is about. The 14th Amendment is the amendment that is mentioned in more court cases than any other amendment. It's the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment outlines who is eligible to enjoy the protections under the law of the Constitution. That's what the 14th Amendment does. Faith is what we need to see what is right and what natural law is. Okay, so what's your faith? That's a great point. Let's talk about that. What is your faith? Who or what do you put your faith in? We claim to be a Christian nation. I don't even know what that means anymore. I know what it means to be Christian. The root word of Christian is Christ. Okay? You are a follower of Christ. In order for you to be a follower of Christ, you have to know where Christ is leading you. What are the teachings of this person named Jesus Christ? And if you are a Christian, you are following those teachings. Love your neighbor as yourself. Hate the sin, not the sinner. If you love me, you will obey me. Well, if you are trying to obey Christ, you got to know what Christ wants you to do. And far too many people who call themselves Christians who happen to be politicians, they don't look anything like a Christian. They don't sound anything like a Christian. So if we're supposed to be a Christian nation, when are we going to start behaving like a Christian nation? Because not for one solitary second have we behaved like a Christian nation. Meaning, if Christ were ruling this nation, would 99% of the things that we've seen happen over the course of American history have happened? The stealing, the murder, the rape, the lying, none of that is Christian. And yet that's how this country was formed. And to Americano's point, that's how it continues to be run. So if we're supposed to be a Christian nation and we're not moving like Christ, what faith are you talking about? Certainly not Muslim. People in this country, a majority of people in this country demonize Muslims, the Muslim faith. They demonize the Jewish faith. So what faith? What faith are you talking about? I believe that you should love your neighbor as yourself. And when you come across somebody, there should be a blank slate. I'm going to be kind to this person and trust that this person is going to be kind to me too. If we all had that mentality, I think things would be a lot better on this planet, not just this country, but we go into each situation of meeting a new person that doesn't look like us or it doesn't sound like us in terms of the language that they speak. We go at that person with mistrust. We approach that person with mistrust or fear or flat out hate. So, Americano, what faith are you talking about? Be kind to one another? Have you ever seen that picture That picture of people in a circle, and there's this a pot of stew, and these people have long spoons, and the spoons are so long that you can't feed yourself with the spoon. You can feed the person across from you with the spoon, and they can feed you. It's a powerful image. It's not a way that we're ever going to live, because people will come up with some reason. And, well, I don't trust him to or her to have as much soup in the spoon when they reach back out to me. I don't trust them. Let me see what you have here. Light and dark. There are two sides. I finally see there is an abundant amount for all. Americano, what do you mean by you finally see that there is an abundant amount for all in this world, but it will not be provided? It must be acquired when you feel worthy to succeed and live in heaven. What do you mean when you say you finally see that there is an abundant amount for all in this world? Did you think that there was a shortage of apples on this planet? Did you think that there was a finite number of apples, and that if everybody got apples, there wouldn't be enough for you? I'm asking the question. I'm seriously interested in what your answer to that question is, because I think that I want to thank you for being honest, open, and transparent by saying you finally see that there is an abundant amount for all. What did you think before that? Before you had that revelation, what did you think? Did you think that there wasn't enough gas for everybody? Did you think that there wasn't enough cornflakes for everybody? There's always been enough apples for you and me and everybody in this world. It's a matter of, can we get the apples to everyone? Is there a desire to make sure everybody has access to apples? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Is there a desire to make sure that everyone has access to apples if they want them, and at a price that's affordable? Or is there a very conscious effort to make sure that not everyone has access to those apples, and not everyone can afford to buy an apple? No religion necessary. A relationship with God is singular. Okay, so some people don't believe in God, but they still move with kindness. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. There are some people who don't believe that God exists. So is it necessary for someone to treat you the way you want to be treated and they not believe in God? It is. They don't have to believe in God to be a kind, caring, compassionate person. I am further away from church than ever, but the closest to God I've ever been, the man in the mirror, the voice in your head, that's God. Well, not every voice in people's heads are coming from God. I think you know that. But I'm all for taking personal accountability, and that's what you mean when you say the person in the mirror. We don't do that. I'm finally not blaming everyone for my problems. Not everyone is out to get me. I've been out to get me, thinking I didn't deserve wealth and love. I'm going to ask you again. What caused you to blame other people for your problems? That's how some of the most horrific acts in human history have occurred. I'll just go to the Holocaust. One man was able to convince millions of people that Jews were the reason that their personal problems exist. That's fact. Fast forward to 2024, we are now living in our own country. We are not in Europe. And you've had politicians convince a certain demographic in this country that their personal problems exist because brown people are coming into this country brown people are coming into this country illegally. Or some other type of person that is not us is the reason why your eggs cost so much. Or you haven't been able to live the American dream. Those people are the reason why you don't have as much money as you want and you can't go on vacation every year and you don't have the car that you want. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Blaming other people, but this country has always blamed other people for the problems of the majority in this country. And the majority of this country of people in the majority of people in this country are white. And I say this not with any type of malice. I'm just pointing out the facts. If you look at the history of this country, look at the Japanese internment camps. They're not white, but yet our politicians felt the need to put Japanese people in internment camps in this country and then pay them reparations. Look it up. Pay them reparations. Sorry for doing that to you and your family. So that's one group of brown people. Muslim people. There was a Muslim ban. Trump called for a Muslim ban before he became president in 2016. Those people are the problem. Another brown group of people. When COVID broke out, it's the Asians' fault. Let's demonize them. The Mexicans coming in here, whether they're Mexican or not, coming in from the southern border, because there's more than just Mexicans or Latino people coming in from the southern border, illegally or otherwise. They're the problem. They're the problem why your gas prices are so high. And then there's black people. They're on welfare. They commit all the crime. It's always somebody else in this country. That's been the history. It's always somebody else who's responsible for whatever woes are existing in white culture. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm just pointing out what we've seen is documented. That's not Christ-like, Americano. That has nothing to do with being Christian. That has nothing to do with faith. You can't call yourself a Christian nation and continue to do that. Everybody else's problem. And let's dial it back even further. Before so many people of color were coming into this country, we were demonizing Irish people. They're the problem. Italian people, they're the problem. Why do we continue to do this? If we call ourselves a Christian nation, why do we continuously move like Christ has nothing to do with our existence? So when you talk about faith, what faith are you talking about? I'm finally not blaming everyone for my problems. I want to know what caused you to blame other people for your problems in the first place. Institutionalized guilt in religion. Catholics teach you to feel guilty. They absolutely do. I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, and Catholic college. And you got to understand why they did that, because way back when, you used to pay to have your sins forgiven. So the more guilty they can make you feel, the more things that they can say, you shouldn't do this, you can't do that. That's a sin, that's a sin. There's a million sins. And in order to have your sins forgiven, you need to come to confession and pay us. Now, look it up. If I'm saying something to you that you've never heard before, just Look it up. The Catholic Church isn't going to admit to this. They're not going to tell you the sins of their past. Look at how long they kept sexual abuse under wraps. No one wants to come clean and say, you know what, we're screwing up. No one. Americano, that's what I'm finally realizing, is that the white man is not out to get me. And if I concentrate on me and not that narrative, I can succeed. Can we not all? Somebody's out to get you. When I say get you, get your money. There is a concerted effort to extract from the poor. There is a concerted effort to make sure that the wealthiest people in this country, who don't look like me, stay that way. And in order for them to stay on that lofty perch, we need to stay divided so that we can blame somebody else other than them for why we are struggling on a personal level. Yes, we do have to take responsibility for our own actions, but there are a lot of things that are in place in American society, in our culture, from a financial standpoint, that have nothing to do with whether or not you're a good person. It has everything to do with a concerted effort to make as much money as humanly possible. That's the capitalist society that we live in. Let me see. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I just wanted to ask. I wanted to ask folks how they were feeling about not just the election, but what life is like for you and who you attribute what we're having to deal with as a society as it relates to how much things cost. The only people that you can blame for how much things cost are the people who are setting the prices for how much they cost, not illegal people. If anything, when it comes to the jobs that people who were working for free at one point in time were doing, is those folks are doing those low wage jobs. So whether you want to admit it or not, there's a benefit. If you don't want to pick strawberries, then who's going to pick the strawberries? I'm just asking the question. There's a lot of things that need to be harvested. We don't have the machinery to pick strawberries. They're too delicate. When the cotton gin was created, that was technology taking away not jobs because they weren't paying. It was a job to be done, but slaves weren't getting paid to pick cotton. So this piece of equipment was created to pick cotton, and it did it quicker. You didn't need humans. What does that remind you of? Not the aspect of slavery, but what does that remind you of? A machine replacing a person. It should remind you of what's taking place right now, where technology and automation is replacing humans. Why? Because it's cheaper. Remember, the business model in this country that has been most successful has been free labor. And from the point in time where free labor was a thing and the point in time that free labor became illegal, this country's business model has been to produce things for as cheap as possible because the roots of this country was free labor. Politicians and business owners can stand up and say all they want, made in America, made in America. They want it made as cheaply as humanly possible. And that's not going to be in America most of the time. So back to those tariffs. It sounds good when Trump says we're going to put tariffs on imported goods. The American companies still need those parts. They still need those goods. So they're going to pay more because a tariff is on those goods that are coming in that they have to buy. So when they buy them at a higher price, I just spent the last 45 minutes telling you that corporations are not going to charge you less money out of the goodness of their hearts to begin with. So if the parts that they need to create whatever it is that they're creating through their business are more expensive because of a tariff, they're already charging you more than they should so that they can make a profit. They're going to charge you even more to make up for the now higher price that they're paying for this part that they need for their business to be viable. And we pay that price. And I have no idea how somebody who is 40 something years old has not learned that yet in life. What have you been doing all your life that you don't understand that that's how tariffs work? What were you doing in fourth grade social studies when they were teaching you what a tariff was? Even better question. Americano brought it up as it relates to the educational system. In 2015, are kids being taught what a tariff is? In 2000, are kids being taught what a tariff is in school? I have to ask the question, for so many people to not know what a tariff is, what were you learning in school? I say social studies. I'm dating myself. I don't even know if social studies is still a class. But I like the name of it, the study of being social, the study of what it is to interact with other human beings. How are you 50 years old and you don't know what a tariff is, bro? I'm just asking. How do you not know? If tariffs are, if they were able to cause companies to manufacture and create here, that's a different story. But it's one vicious circle. Okay, if I'm going to manufacture this product here, I have to pay American workers more because we have labor laws here. That's cheaper over there. I want to buy it from over there. I may have an American flag on my lapel of my suit, and I say made in America, but I don't buy American. And I'll leave you with this. I want you to Google Donald Trump's clothing line. Or the next time you're in a department store, whether it's Macy's or JCPenney, whatever, and you see Trump ties and Trump shirts, I want you to look at the label on the tie and see where that tie was made. You will discover that his clothing line, those ties, are made in China. and made in a whole bunch of other countries, not here. Why do you think he has his clothing line made in China? Because it's cheaper to get it made in China. So when you hear him railing against China, just know that on a personal level, he's all for China. His ties are made in China. His shirts are made in China. Just look it up. Look it up for yourself. Google it, and if you think that it's an AI generated image, go to the department store yourself and look at the tag. The tie is made in China. And it's because of capitalism that he made sure that his clothing line is made in China. It's cheaper to make his stuff in China. So I want to thank you for tapping in. I don't know how many people are on this stream, but I just wanted to ask some questions, share some thoughts on where we're at in our country's history right now as it relates to how we're treating each other, how much things cost, politics, who you wanted to win the election, who you didn't want to win the election, and how much information, how much factual information do you actually have as it relates to why you have the opinion that you have. Americano, I want to give you a shout out for being honest about how your thought process has changed, that you're not blaming other people for your own personal problems. Next time we go live, I still want to know why you thought that other people were the reasons for your problems, why you thought that there was not an abundant amount of everything and that you thought it was limited. Did somebody teach you that? Did your parents teach you that? You can always leave a message. When this video posts, you can always comment. Again, I want to invite you to share this channel with other people. Subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. And I have some interesting interviews coming up that we're going to air that don't have anything to do with police or convicted felons. It's human stuff. I have more to talk about, and I'm interested in more than just law enforcement, community relations. So if you're open to watching that type of comment, sharing that type, watching that type of content, sharing that type of content that could do with anything, could have something to do with anything, this is the right channel for you. I want to thank you guys for tapping in on this Sunday, and I will get with you at some point soon. We will be online, streaming live at some point this week. Just keep track of that notification bell. Have a great Sunday. Hope you had a great weekend. I'll talk to you again soon.